Legendary German pilot the Red Baron was shot down by an Australian soldier over France during World War I, new evidence suggests. Manfred von Richthofen took down more Allied planes than any other pilot in the Great War, with 80 confirmed kills to his name. His exploits became an iconic war story, but the mystery of who exactly took the Baron out has never been solved. A fuel tank believed to have been salvaged from his bullet-riddled plane and brought back to Australia by troops has surfaced in a Melbourne museum. The find adds credibility to the argument it might have been an Australian soldier who took out the Red Baron. Experts at the Australian National Aviation Museum in Moorabbin, Victoria, discovered the brass fuel tank in their storage facility, where it had been sitting and gathering dust for some 30 years. It was donated to the museum in the early 1980s by a family who had long kept it in storage, but its significance was only recently realized. Experts believe the find could prove it was not a Canadian pilot who shot down the Baron, as has previously been suggested, but an Australian soldier. Chairman of the museum, Ashley Briggs, said the fuel tank had only recently been taken out of storage, which is when researchers discovered it came from a Fokker Doctor.I, the type of plane the Red Baron flew. It also showed signs of a low-impact crash, Mr. Briggs said. There was fuel dripping out of the plane when it went down, and the tank has a hairline crack in the bottom. The tank has all those signs, so we believe it could very well be from the Red Baron's plane. Our research ultimately begged the question, why did that tank survive? Mr. Briggs said during World War I it was a tradition among Australian troops to bring back souvenirs from the front line. But he said there was no explanation for why the soldiers would cart such a bulky spoil as this particular tank back down under, unless it had special significance because of a famous owner. When you consider the amount of booty which would have been available, why would the Australian soldiers bring something this large? Mr. Briggs asked. It would have needed to be something pretty significant. Canadian pilot Roy Brown intercepted Richthofen and shot at him on the day he was gunned down, and as such has been being widely credited with taking out the war's top-scoring airman. But in recent years, stories have circulated it was in fact an Australian, either gunner Robert Wee, from the Central Coast, or Sergeant Cedric Popkin, from the New South Wales Tweed Valley. The rediscovery of the fuel tank is another chapter in a story which has captivated the imagination of war historians for decades. Most people have heard of the Red Baron, Mr. Briggs said. It's a very iconic story. The human element is far more interesting than the piece of metal itself. It's a story that has survived for generations. The knowledge of younger generations may be limited, but they have heard of him for whatever reason. The various facts line up to substantiate the story. But we will never be able to prove it beyond reasonable doubt.